guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about a case that actually, when I first read the title, I had to reread it one more time, which is saying a lot because with everything I've seen at this point, I'm not shocked by all that much. Well, think again, bitch, because I have no words. Police allege couple murdered Amber Hay and used pigs to dispose of body, court hears. Robert Jeeves, who had pleaded not guilty, was accused of calling 8 neighbors in just 90 minutes seeking permission to access their land, murder trial hears. So, if you were like me when I read this, I was like, what the fuck is even going on? I'm not even sure I understand what is happening via this title and description. Police accused Robert and Ann Jeeves of murdering teenager Amber Hay to take her baby and then disposing of her body by feeding it to pigs, the New South Wales Supreme Court has heard. The 7th week of the Jeeves murder trial heard extraordinary evidence about the arrest of Robert and Ann Jeeves in May of 2022, 2 decades after Hay disappeared without a trace. Hay, who had an intellectual disability, was 19 when she vanished from the NSW Riverina in June 2002, leaving behind her 5-month-old son. The father of Hay's child, 64-year-old Robert Jeeves, and his wife, Ann Jeeves, also 64, are on trial for her alleged murder. Both have pleaded not guilty. So this is a lot of information to grapple with, mainly because also the father of Hay's child, do they mean father as in who's taking care of the child, quote unquote, or the father as in this man and Hayes had some kind of relationship? Though it's also interesting to note that they mentioned an intellectual disability, which, I mean, could be anything, but I'm just wondering how far the consent goes, depending on what the situation may have been, of course. Police arrested the Jeeveses on the 4th of May 2022, about 10:30 a.m. in the cells at Young Police Station. Ann Jeeves declined to be interviewed by police, but the court heard she had a conversation with Detective Amanda Carey, which Carey recorded in her police notebook. In court on Thursday, Crown Prosecutor Paul Kerr questioned Carey on that 2022 conversation where the detective had put the allegation to Ann Jeeves that she had, on or about 5 June 2002, murdered Hay. Ann Jeeves denied the allegation. In court, Kerr and Carey, "Did you put the allegation that she had disposed of Amber Hay's body?" "Yes," Carey replied. "Did she deny that?" "Yes." "Did you say to her, 'I believe you to be equally involved in her murder?'" "Yes." "When you say equally, with who?" Carey responded, "With Robert Jeeves." "Did you put to her the allegation that it was police belief that Amber Hay was murdered because the Jeeves wanted custody of her baby?" Kerr continued. "Yes," Carey replied. "Did she deny that?" Kerr asked. "Yes." So as of right now, it's just denial. The fact that they could have potentially murdered this teenager, whose child could be the guy who murdered her, Jeeves, right? Because it said the father of the child, Jeeves. It's contorted the moment it has to do with murder, it's contorted. But specifically, if you're murdering the mother of your child, who's also a teenager, who's also maybe not able to consent, or didn't consent, actually. There's a lot to unpack there. The court also heard evidence that on evening of the 2nd of July, 2002, Robert Jeeves called 8 neighboring rural properties in the space of 90 minutes seeking permission to access people's land, inquiring after farm equipment, or if he could collect firewood. Recalling the alleged conversation in the Young Police Station cell, the court heard evidence that Carey said to Ann Jeeves, "I believe you did go on that land driving the Suzuki, and I believe you disposed of Amber's body. I believe you helped Robert each time, and I believe you to be equally involved." Ann Jeeves replied, "No." Carey said, "I don't believe you actually killed Amber, but I believe you were present and you knew it was going to happen and you helped dispose of her body to pigs. What can you tell me about that?" Ann Jeeves replied, "No. Pigs, no." Now, if they did dispose of the body via pigs, that would actually make a lot of sense as to why nothing was ever found. Now, granted, I don't know this area that they live in, but if there are a lot of farms, I can only imagine that there are big areas of land. That being said, I don't know of many farms that completely ignore areas of their land, right? So as much as it's not a busy city that has people bustling around all the time, it is land that's owned and looked after. So unless they fed it to pigs, of course there are plenty of other things they could have done, but just dumping it somewhere might have been difficult if you're surrounded by farmers. The court also heard evidence of police investigations into a chainsaw bought by the Jeeveses, paid for by check, the butt of which was found by investigators on the 13th of June 2002. On Thursday, the court heard evidence about Robert and Ann Jeeves' arrest on the 4th of May 2022 at their property on the outskirts of Hardin. Driving the Jeeveses to Young Police Station, Carrie said she asked Ann Jeeves if she wanted to know what is new in the 20-year-old case. Carrie told Ann Jeeves a new witness who had not previously spoken to police had come forward to say that he had seen Ann and Robert Jeeves along with Hay and her baby on the afternoon of the 5th of June 2002 at his property in Buroa. The Jeeveses had said they were traveling with Hay and her child to Sydney. But the witness told police he saw Ann, Robert, and the baby at a nearby petrol station an hour later, but that Hay was not present. Ann Jeeves responded to Carrie that she didn't know anyone in Buroa. James Arbor from Buroa gave evidence earlier in this trial that he'd seen the Jeeveses and Hay that afternoon, but under cross-examination he conceded he may have estimated the date he saw her after watching a news item on her disappearance. Okay, the thing I'm confused about is why is no one asking about the rapport between the Jeeveses and Hay? Because granted, there are big age gap friendships, I guess, but why would this teen randomly be friends with an older couple? Like, were they family friends? Like, who were they to her? And how did they know each other? And how did this all happen? Because traveling with your family friends is one thing, but you, a teenager with a brand new baby, just traveling with this random older couple that, you know, like, what is the relationship here? I'm confused about that. The day 5th of June 2002 is a critical day in the police investigation. On that day, the Jeeveses told police they drove Hay from their home to Campbelltown railway station on Sydney's southern outskirts, from where she intended to catch a train to visit her dying father in hospital. Hay never arrived at the nearby Mount Druitt Hospital to see her father. She has never been seen since. The last time Hay was independently sighted was 3 days earlier on the 2nd of June when she was seen with Robert Jeeves at her bedsit flat in Young. On Thursday afternoon, the court began hearing hours of listening intercepts from the Jeeves' home installed by police after Hay disappeared. The recordings are of low quality and sometimes unintelligible. In them, Robert and Ann Jeeves discuss the allegations against them and their anger at the continued police investigation, as well as people they believe are conspiring against them. The intercepts also record the couple talking playfully to Hay's 5-month-old son, who was in their custody at the time. Hay's unresolved disappearance has been an enduring mystery in the Riverina. The court has heard she adored her son and never let out of her sight. Hay's body has never been found, but a coroner has ruled she died from homicide or misadventure. The prosecution has alleged in court that Hay was used by Robert and Ann Jeeves as a surrogate mother because they wanted another baby. So that would explain the relationship between Hayes and this older couple if they were effectively using her as a surrogate, which already opens the door to a lot of questions of how ethically are you using this person as a surrogate, in the sense of, are you equipping them with everything they need? How much of this was actually consented to? Like, was there coercion? Was, you know, like, how above board was all of this? And I have to ask that at this point because shit is shady as hell, needless to say. Also, saying that she was a surrogate would have meant that there might have been a higher potential that they can keep the child since it's officially their child. And maybe it's also how the article is written, because I feel like her being a potential surrogate would be one of the first things to explain, because that explains why this teenager was around these people who were older than her and seemingly completely unrelated in any way. Amber Hay removed from the equation, court told. The prosecution alleged that once Hay's baby was born, they sought to have her removed from the equation by killing her. The court has previously heard the Jeeveses had one child together, a son the same age as Hay, who had previously dated her, but the couple wanted more children, having subsequently endured 3 miscarriages and a stillbirth. Now I am disgusted and concerned. There's nothing incesty about this, but there's something a little bit weird to me about it that feels too close. Now, I don't know what type of relationships people have with their surrogate. I don't know if you become best friends or if it's more transactional. I guess it depends on who it is. But the fact that you would choose a girl that your son dated in order to be a surrogate for you, I don't know, I find that strange to say the very least. And like I said, it's not necessarily incest or perverted, it's just, if I were the son, I would feel some type of way about that. I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on what terms you ended the relationship, but even on the best of terms, I don't really know if I'd want my ex-girlfriend carrying my parents' child for them. If you put it that way, I think the weirdness really kind of comes through. The Crown case theory is that it was always the intention of the Jeeveses to assume the custody and care of the child from Amber, but they knew that to do that, Amber had to be removed from the equation, so the Crown asserts they killed her. Lawyers for Robert and Ann Jeeves have argued the case against the couple is deeply flawed. Michael King, acting for Ann Jeeves, said his client did not kill Hay and had no motive to kill Amber or even wish her dead. King said others in the community who disapproved of the Jeeves' relationship with Hay were all too quick to point the finger at the couple when she disappeared. Everything they did was viewed through a haze of mistrust and suspicion, he told the court. Paul Cody, defense counsel for Robert Jeeves, told the court his client had denied being in any way involved in her disappearance or murder. He said community distaste at Robert Jeeves' relationship with a much younger woman with intellectual disabilities fueled gossip and innuendo. Many witnesses harbored grievances or suspicions, particularly against Mr. Jeeves. The judge-alone trial before Justice Julia Lonergan continues in Wagga Wagga. None of these place names sound real. I don't think any of this is surprising in the sense of course, if you're in a relatively small community or if you're in a community that's quote-unquote old school in whatever type of way, yeah, people are gonna think it's weird that you have a teenager around that I don't know what your relationship is with her, but that is going to be or is carrying your child. Of course, it's going to be to some degree questioned, right? And I'm not really in favor of that small town gossip, trust and believe, but at the same time, what did you really expect? Especially depending on the avenue they took to get there. Like, how official was this? Or did they just find a girl that their son dated who was, I guess, quote unquote, open to the idea, and just say, hey, we'll give you this amount of money, we'll take care of you to this degree if you carry the child for us, right? Which is different than going through actual businesses that pair couples with surrogates based on needs, blah, 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 right? And I'm not saying one is superior to the other. I'm sure there are plenty of people who find someone and it organically works, but in this particular case, having dated the son makes it all very immediately weird, rather irreparably, if you ask me. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.